Heyo, I'm Cadey.
And it's your co-host Cori, and this is the PressNextPodcast. You know how we do.
You know how we do. Welcome back to an all-new episode of the PressNextPodcast. We are so excited that you have joined us today. This is the last week of April, or the last episode of April, where we are discussing sexual assault awareness. So the things that are said in this week's episode may be triggering to you. So just a trigger warning if you are uncomfortable with that, or if you would rather not listen to it, we totally understand. So just wait around for our episode next week. And yeah, thank you for being here.
Definitely. We want to welcome you in. Also, next month, just to kind of give you a shot ahead for next month. Next month is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we will be kind of diving into that direction and that topic. So we'll be watching films, TV shows, and documentaries centered around that. And I would love to have a bevy of different people on the show next month, specifically to speak about either their battles with mental health and or how they are helping in that field and things of that nature. So if you are listening to this podcast right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to speak about mental health next month, what you can do is you can sign up via our sign up sheet. So if you go to any of our social medias, specifically IG and maybe even TikTok, in our bio is our link tree. On that link tree is a form for guest sign up. So you can sign up to be a guest. Just put your information there. Cadey and I will reach out to you and try to get some more information from you and see if you're available to be on the show. But we would love to do that next month. I would specifically, I'm a little bit biased because most people know my background when it comes to mental health. So I really, really want to go into depth next month about mental health, something that is plaguing a lot of us.
If people don't know, what is your background in mental health?
Okay, so I have thank you for making me expand. My wife, everybody, hand clap.
Yes.
The wonderful co-host that she is. I got my undergrad in psychology, and I know most people are like, psychology is the easy route, but I didn't do it just because it was the easy route. I actually enjoyed it, and I got one of my masters in clinical mental health counseling, and so I do a lot of work, not necessarily specifically in counseling, but I work with students on college campus, and mental health is very prevalent in our culture. And so I try to do the best work that I can in that area with the resources that I have. But I have a bunch of friends who are counselors who have got their licensure and who are doing great work in the field. So if you're hearing this, or anybody, has a story when it comes to mental health, we want to be able to boost that story for us to utilize our platform to help you out, get your story out there, and or how you're helping. So again, hit that sign up sheet. There's a lot of other things in our link tree to our YouTube, link tree to everything. If you want to give us money, we are self-funded. We'll get to that at the end, little church announcements. But make sure you are clicking that in your bio. And I know in last episode we talked about how I went viral on TikTok. Well, last week, Cadey went viral on TikTok. So if you are here from TikTok, shout out to you. We love TikTok. We love the stuff that we have done on TikTok. And we are happy to say that also on Mondays, we pretty much are going to start going live, playing games with our fans and
yes,
stuff. So
we went live Monday, and that was so much fun. We were on there for like 2 hours, I think.
Yeah.
It was really fun talking with everyone.
Yeah, but it was so fun. So we're going to do that again and hopefully continue that out where we just get on live with our fans and then play the card games that our fans can play as well with us. You don't have to be in the same room. So
also, I don't think that we have set in stone what we're going to cover next month for the Mental Health Awareness Month.
Facts.
Movies and TV shows and things like that. So if you have something that you want to suggest, or if you have something that you think is perfect for the topic of discussion and you think we should watch it, also in that link, there is a way to suggest movies. So just go ahead and put, Mental Health Month, and then put the movie or the TV show or the documentary that you're suggesting, and we will check it out and maybe cover a podcast over it.
Yeah, definitely. We want suggestions, no matter how.
I think the Joker would be cool.
And Joker would be cool
one.
And I think a lot of people want to talk about that. I think we should do that. I think we really should do that.
Ooh, look at me.
That kind of hits two topic areas that we all love, right? Which is mental health, and then also like the superhero / villain kind of aspect, or origin stories. People love origin stories, so that would be cool to even have somewhat of like a round table. But I don't know
Yeah.
if we have that many people, but I would love to have maybe two more people on just to talk about some of these topics, because we really all have been over time kind of wrecked by mental health issues. And I'm so glad where we are today, specifically when it comes to mental health, but we have a
Absolutely.
long way to go. So I want people to talk. With that being said, though, we are not there yet. We are still in Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Yes.
And today's a very interesting episode, huh?
Yes. So this week we are covering Abducted in Plain Sight. So I don't know if y'all remember when this documentary movie came out in 2017. It was the topic of discussion. So
Yeah, it was.
it is the twisting, turning, stranger than fiction true story of the Brobergs, a naive, church-going Idaho family that fell under the spell of a sociopathic neighbor with designs on their 12-year-old daughter.
Yeah, just a weird situation. And here's the thing. It was set, I think, some time ago, 70s or 80s, like late 70s, early 80s, maybe. So times were different back then.
Very much so.
And they kind of talk about it in the film. But the thing is, this is probably one story that there's much more that just have not been told.
Right. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, a bunch to unpack. And we can let's get into it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's jump right in.
No time. Let's jump in. On a scale of 1 to 10, typically we ask this question on a scale of 1 to 10. How did you like the film? Where are you at? But here's what I'm going to ask you. Let's switch it up a little bit. On a scale of 1 to 10, how uncomfortable were you during this film? 1 being you can watch it 1,000 times with being all comfort, and 10 being my skin is crawling. I don't want to watch it ever again. I couldn't even finish it.
9, 8 or 9, because I would say 8.
Okay.
Because I did watch it again. But oh my gosh. Like, I don't know. And I feel, disclaimer on this whole thing, we are not parents. So anything that we say is from our point of view, and, we may have a skewed point of view, and we may not understand what it's like being a parent, and those sorts of things. So don't come at us. We're just talking from our perspective.
Or you can, but we don't know. So sorry.
True. But man, I would say it made me uncomfortable on a 8 scale, because yeah, there's just a lot to unpack. I feel like you're watching it and you're like, man, that's bad. And then something else happens and you're like, wow, that's worse. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. And it's like, you think that the worst has happened and then something else happens.
That is so true. So like,
and the whole time you're watching, I watched it when it first came out in 2017. So years ago.
Wow. 2017 was years ago. Like, it's 2021 now.
Yeah, was it 2017 when I watched it, or because whenever it came out on Netflix? I don't know. It was made in 2017. Whenever it hit Netflix is when I first watched it, and I just remember being like, "What?" And then I watched it again for this episode, and I was like, "Man, I forgot all this stuff happened." Like I remembered the gist of the story but I forgot all of the minor details, like the alien abduction and wow.
Right? Okay.
Wow.
So the thing for me, it was so shocking to me. I would say probably 8 or 9 for me, uncomfortable wise. It was so shocking for me that I didn't remember. I mean, I didn't forget anything. I remember everything, right? Here's how I was watching the film the first time. Every time I would make the face where I dropped my jaw, something would happen, I would drop my jaw even further. By the end of the time, I was looking like Pennywise trying to eat one of them kids, jaw all the way open down to my chest, because there's so much wild stuff going on. And honestly, I think just as a human, right? Maybe in the 80s, this makes more sense. If this came out in the 80s at the time that it was actually happening, I think more people have sympathy for this couple, this family.
Right.
We have came such a long way from just the beginning of stranger danger, right? To understanding, to the whole movement against trafficking children, pedophilia, everything. whole movements that when we watch it now, we're like, what the, you know what, right?
Yeah.
What the, if I can end a little bleep here, what the bleep
Right.
is, our mind is so blown because like, how could you?
Mm-hmm.
You know? But I think that even now, people still get duped to this day. You say, how could you, but you
definitely.
getting scammed over the phone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sending $4,000 to somebody who you never met. So I can see how people can get scammed in certain situations and stuff like that. But man, was times different. Matter of fact,
Very
let's
different.
talk about childhood real quick. I know we grew up different. So you grew up East Texas on a home on a range, you know, and and nothing wrong with that. Beautiful life. I grew up in the suburbs. Very much so.
I drove through the suburbs.
Exactly. Very much so like the American dream, I guess you can say. Nice home, big family. We lived in a neighborhood where there was a lot of like middle age to older people, so it wasn't a lot of kids. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a lot of kids, and so it was nice. Here's the thing, though. For me, growing up, like walking home, like by ourselves or in a group or leaving the door unlocked was like it felt safe.
Yeah.
To ride my bike to my friend's house, you know, and then just chill.
That's
leaving
so
the bike on the
wild
lawn.
to me.
Right. You know, it was just.
It's wild to me because not that it wasn't safe to do that when I was growing up, but everybody just lived too far away, right? So it wasn't walking distance to someone's house or whatever, because I grew up in the middle of nowhere. But I will say, growing up, we did not lock our doors.
Right.
We didn't lock our car doors. We didn't lock our home doors, even when we were in there.
Did you even have
asleep.
blinds on your windows?
Yes, we did.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to ask,
but
you know.
We did, but like we never locked our doors when we left. We never locked our doors when we were there, like sleeping. We didn't have house keys. That's how we didn't even.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
Wow.
Didn't, you know, all of our equipment outside, like the 4-wheelers and things like that, kept the keys in them.
Wow.
No issues. Yeah.
I mean, like, that's like unfathomable for somebody like me now. Like, knowing where we are now, there's no way I'm not gonna have a house key, or my kids aren't gonna have no house key, and I'm not gonna be able to get in touch with them. And I also grew up without a cell phone, so like my parents, their thing was like a cell phone is something you earn. You didn't need that freedom. We had a house phone and everything else, and so I didn't get a cell phone until we graduated. That was like part of our graduation gift, was we got to, you know, a cell phone, and so. We had to memorize the numbers up here, you know, use that noggin of ours, which is cool. I actually know everybody's number now. I can't tell you nobody's number. Right. But I'll be damned if I don't have if I'm not able to contact my child now.
Right. And I will say I had a cell phone at a young age, but that's because, you know, when my dad remarried to my stepmom, they both worked an hour away. And so they would leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning and they wouldn't get home until 6, 7 o'clock at night. So me and my brother were alone majority of the time.
Latchkey kid.
And so, and we didn't have a house phone at that time. And so we needed some way to contact people. And then we were in sports and things like that. So a lot of times we were getting rides from other people's parents and things like that. So we needed a way to contact them. So luckily on that. But I will say that when my stepmom came into the picture, she was from a bigger town. And so, of course, she was like, nah, we need to start locking the doors and all this stuff. Right. So it was a hard transition. There are several times I got locked out of the house, didn't have my key. Luckily, I did have a cell phone because then I could call my grandma to come pick me up because I was locked out of the house.
Hey,
no, not Granny. She can't drive.
Oh,
no,
you know.
My other grandma.
All right, well, it's just I think we have to look at this movie through a lens of like, this was a different time, and and part of that time I recognize because that's how I grew up, where it felt very safe to do these things, and like not everybody was trying to live in a gated community or had a ring light or a ring doorbell
camera, right? And I think that back then people were just more trusting of others, which actually blows my mind because you think about all of the true crime documentaries and podcasts and serial killers and Ted Bundy and all of this. It seemed like it was all back then, right? So why were people so trusting?
Well, I mean, if you think about it though, also and this is the nature of it becoming skewed, and I don't want to put fear and place fear in everybody. I think that having a nature of protection and being proactive in that is very smart. I understand it, but also you have to think about, like, let's take the show Crime Junkie. We love Crime Junkie. We're Crime Junkie fans.
We
Okay,
do.
every Monday we're tuning in, and Ashley saying I'm Ashley Flowers, and together we're gonna say, and I'm Britt, right? Like,
And I'm Britt.
that's what we do. So we understand that. And while, let's say they have 700 episodes, well, 700 episodes is 700 cases.
Right.
And if you talk about the 700 cases as per how many families are in the world or just in the United States, that's not really a lot at all. So
yeah,
you kind of have to look at it from that lens, even though we know that this is 700 is a lot because one is too many.
right.
In regards to how many people and how many families there are, is not.
Right.
You know, so it's really not that common, which is why the one thing that makes, I think, their episodes so lucrative is, like, everybody's like, this is a community that was rocked. And why is the community so willing to come out and help? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, because nobody wants a child or somebody to be abducted. And two, because they recognize this doesn't happen in our community. It is rare for them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
Like,
also they were in a community of Mormons. So I think that they were all very involved in the church of
right.
Latter-day Saints, and because that's actually where they met B. So going back to this, the main characters are going to be Jan Broberg, who is the little girl who was abducted, her parents, the Brobergs, Marianne and Bob, and then her siblings were in it, and I would like to bring them up just because I think that goes into the grooming aspect of it. So her siblings were in it. I think she had 2 sisters, and then Bob Birchtold, or we'll just call him B because both of the men have the same name. So that's what Jan called him, was B. So those are going to be the main characters. The Birchtolds met the Brobergs through church, and in the documentary they say, everybody had someone. So this couple was married and had 3 kids, and this couple was married and had 3 kids, and they were all about the same age. So everyone had a companion in the other family, and they just clicked immediately.
Except some of the companions weren't of the same age, huh? Some of them were centered around maybe one of the other family members.
Right.
B, for lack of better words, was the ultimate finesser.
Yes,
he's
very
the ultimate
much so.
Finesser. He finessed pretty much everybody in that family.
Yes, everyone.
So,
and I think that goes into the grooming aspect of it too. But we'll get into that a little bit later in the episode.
Yeah, so interesting that you even brought that up. But before we get like too far in the weeds, let me ask you a question. As just a regular human being, what aspect of the movie like pissed you off the most? Or was there like a moment where you're like, this is beyond dumbfounding, and it's kind of making me like mad now?
Yeah. The whole thing? No. But honestly, I think that it was very frustrating. At first it was kind of like, what the? And then the more you watched it, the more frustrating it got. Like the fact that B abducted Jan.
Right.
And they didn't call the cops for 2 or 3 days because they were like, oh, he'll come back. He'll bring her back. They didn't want to upset his wife, who came over there and was like, oh, because, okay. Hopefully you've watched this. Yes. Hopefully you've watched this, but if not, go watch it and come back to this. But anyways, he asked the family, can I take Jan horseback riding? And they're like, maybe not today. It's a school night. She's got piano lessons, got a lot to do. And he's like, well, how about I pick her up at piano lessons? We go ride horses. I bring her back. Okay, cool. They go to, he picks her up. He gives her an allergy pill. That way she doesn't sneeze and stuff around horses, whatever. The pill knocks her out. She wakes up somewhere else thinking she's been abducted by aliens. So this is when he kidnaps her. What infuriated me was that the parents didn't let it happen. The parents knew that she had been taken and they waited around.
Right.
And what made me the most mad, and I even said something about this, is they were like, I know he wouldn't hurt her. If someone is kidnapping my child for days and I have not heard from them, my assumption is that that child is in danger because we already have that kind of relationship with you. And if you just wanted to spend a couple of days with my child, or if you wanted my child to come spend the night or whatever with your family, then we have that open line of communication. You see my child almost every day. Why take them? You know? So why did they not assume that the child was in danger?
Right. I think that you really have to take in, you know, on the other side to like try to answer that question. You really have to take in, one, this is a different time and era. And two, they were like neighbors. So, you know, this is not uncommon for them to have been together for some time. Right. They've been on trips together as families and everything else. And so, you know, essentially, I'm sure they're probably looking at this person as like the fun uncle, right? Of like, oh yeah, boom, and they go off. But even to your point, they didn't have it in their minds that she was kidnapped, because when they contacted the FBI agent was trying to tell them like, hey, it took a while for me to get it in their head that their child was kidnapped.
Their child was kidnapped, yeah.
It wasn't that like, oh, this person is your neighbor and y'all know him and he just took the child or whatever. No, your child has been kidnapped. Like, can you imagine trying to tell somebody? I envision it's probably like telling somebody that the coronavirus is real and they don't believe it. But can you imagine trying to tell somebody your child has left your supervision without your permission for longer a period of time with somebody who you did not give permission to be with them for that allotted amount of time? That is kidnapping. And they just be like, oh no, B would never do that. We're just a little bit worried, like he wouldn't kidnap, because if you kidnap somebody, then there has to be like some foul play or something, you know? You gotta put the chloroform over their mouth and have to be knocked out and everything else. Like that's the only way you can kidnap them. And then being the FBI agent, like, no, your child has been kidnapped. Right. So I think it just, even for them, they really didn't. So it's wild for us to be like, there's no way. Because if it's my child, I've seen I work at a college, and there's plenty of time, and I understand this from parents. There's plenty of times where a child will go out, a student or somebody might go out on a Thursday night, you know, and leave at like 5. They're hanging out with their friends starting at 5. They spend all Thursday night out with their friends, and they stay at somebody else's house or whatever. Their phone dies, they don't have a charger, whatever it may be. By 4 a.m., we're getting blown up about we need to go check on this student because they haven't contacted their parents. Right. That's not even 12 hours. Right. Of the parent knows that the student is at college, but we haven't been in contact. So within that 12 hours, we're already doing wellness checks just to make sure that the student is where the student is. And I understand that sentiment. So it's really hard from our lens to be like, how the hell did this happen? How did you let somebody, after 3 days, you're like, all right, maybe we need to contact the FBI? Because for me, after like, you know, after 20 minutes or an hour passed when I said you were supposed to be home, the cavalry is out, bro. Like, I'm in the whip, my cousin's in the whip, you in the whip. We making phone calls, we putting out stuff. I might already have your face on a flyer, right? Hanging above on the telephone poles, whatever it is. So it's really hard to kind of look back on that lens. And for y'all who may or may not hear my dog drinking water in the background, I do apologize. The dog's in the kennel with me, and Perry is bougie. And I have like this little water thing. Sorry, this is a tangent, but I have this little water thing that's like, you know, you give like gerbils or whatever attached to the side.
Yeah, like rabbits. And
yeah, and so I gave that to him when he was very little. I got him when he was like 7 weeks old. And so he's very used to drinking water out of that apparatus. So now he like only drinks water out of that. He will like not drink water all day and then go, or he'll skip the water trough that we have for him and come to his kennel to drink water out of the kennel. It's really weird. Yeah, it makes a lot of noise. Yeah, he's bougie, and the water in there, I can't hear it though, so we're good. Great. Anyway, yeah, it's really hard. You got to look at it through that lens, but yeah, I just cannot believe they waited so long.
that made me mad. Back to the question, that made me mad. And then just everything past that point, I was like,
continue to piss
you
you
have
off.
got to be yes. Well, and then the fact that they just let her go a second time, and she was like,
Right.
no, first of all, the fact that he married her in Mexico.
And when you say he, you mean B and Jan.
B married Jan, the child that he abducted.
Yes.
Also, let's talk about her age. At this point, she's what, 12?
12 maybe?
12, 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in Mexico at this time, it was 12. You could get married at 12 without parental consent. Lord. And then they got her back, and then the second time she was abducted, right? And she was like, I want to go with B to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And if you don't let me go, I'm going to start walking down the road like I'm going to go anyways. So they put her on a plane.
Nah, not they. Mom's put her on a plane. Pop said
True.
no.
Her mom put her on a plane by herself to go stay with this man who has already abducted her and married her in Mexico. Like, are they still not believing what's happening? Because also when she returned from being abducted the first time and they took her to the hospital and they said that her hymen was still intact, so I guess they thought that she was not sexually assaulted.
Right.
Even though she was.
Yeah, and by the standards back then, you know, I'm sure, and even now, to people who are uneducated, like that's like their standard of like, oh, this person still has their virginity, not knowing that your hymen can be, what is the correct term? Because I don't want to be the man here talking about hymen. But there's plenty of other ways. You can be bike riding or very,
I was about to say,
and stuff like that.
Just because it's not intact doesn't mean that you've been having sex. Right.
Thank you. And even if you can, have sex and it still be intact. So, yeah, I think, back then information and naive. And I think naive is the greatest way to put this. Some of it is just foolishness, just straight up foolishness. And even to give y'all a little bit more information, B had a sexual relationship not only with the mother of Jan, but also with the father of Jan. Okay?
Yes. Let's get into that.
Yeah.
So first, weren't they on a family vacation or something? They were on a church. No, they were on a church trip. And the mom, Marianne, Jan's mom, Marianne, and B, the guy who kidnapped her, they like started kissing and touching each other, and he like groped her breast, but that was as far as it went, she said. Well, then after that, B, who is the master manipulator, went after Jan's dad, and he was like, hey, can we go for a drive? So they went for a drive, and they like parked in this field or something. Right. And B was like, man, I'm just feeling really stressed. I could use some relief. Can you relieve me? And Bob, the dad, was like, oh, okay. So
he beat his meat.
He gave the man a handy.
Yes, he literally, which is like, again, this is not to shame or shade anybody of anything. What I'm saying is B was so masterful at his grooming, right. He understood that he had to have won over the trust of not only the mom, but the father as well.
But also the father.
And to have something to hang over their head. Now he is forever connected to both because he can play them against each other.
Also, after he kidnapped Jan and she was back the first time, the mom had sex with him.
After.
Full-blown sex.
After.
Several times.
So I just kidnapped your daughter, brought her back, and your husband beat me off, and I'm smashing you after the fact. Like I said, B is the most masterful manipulator.
So let's talk about
things
that make you mad. Let's talk about things that make you mad, because I'm just getting mad here thinking about it all over again. Because I said, this is so infuriating because it just gets worse and worse and worse. And you think the worst has happened, and then something else happens, and you're just like, is this like when I was watching it, it seriously felt like a made up story. It seems so unreal that these things can happen.
Yes, but they do
that
all the
you're
time.
just like, what?
They do
all the time. Right. They
And
do all the time.
And I say all the time, meaning that they're more frequent than we think they are.
Right. Absolutely. And they're not, in the moment, it doesn't seem like it's to this extent, right? I feel like it's not until after the fact where you're like, wow, you couldn't see all of those glaring signs.
Facts.
But, you know, retrospect is 2020.
Right. You know, and in different times, different things. Because I'm sure that, like, whatever's happening now, you know, if we get to 2052 and people are like, people in 2021 did this, you know, like with time, you know, time heals all and reveals all, right? And
Absolutely.
so for us looking, you know, back then, I mean, there's plenty of stuff that we look at people in the 70s and 60s, like, why would you even think that that's safe or smart to do?
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I want to say that we are not, I'm not in any way trying to shame this family, because I obviously do not know what they went through, and I don't know how I would have been in that situation, because I mean, gosh, you look back at some of your exes and you're like, why did I put up with that? Why didn't I see that before? You know? And so like,
it's hard
we've
when you're
all
in
been
the situation to be able to see through the BS.
Exactly. So I want to say that I'm in no way trying to judge this family or criticize what they did, but it is kind of crazy to look back and just be like, man, but I feel the same way about myself sometimes.
Right.
So.
And really, I think the crazy part about it, and here's why I think, for me at least, I think it's so wild, is that he didn't just manipulate one person. It's different when you get maybe one or two and you can scoot past the second one. He finessed the entire fam. That's why it's so mind blowing, because typically somebody in the house is saying, hey, bro.
Right.
Because even with your exes, somebody in your life was like, hey.
Right.
And you might have said, you know, whatever you wanted to say about it because you felt a certain way. But for them, it seemed like everybody was just getting finessed, and then it was a mouse to the trap, you know.
Right.
I'm a mouse to the trap. I'm a dog. I'm a eat, baby. Anyway, you just going, you feeding on the cheese. You get caught up in a situation, like your neck snap. So
right, and it's just insane thinking about how manipulative this man was.
Right. I mean, literally the master finesser. And here's the thing about everything that you said that makes you mad, makes me mad too. That as a man, as somebody who is really trying to be very like biblical when it comes to husbandry and what it means to be a man in the household and a provider and a protector, those things make me mad. One, you're not convincing me to relieve you of your stress, fam.
Yeah.
I call you somebody, you know, that was willing to do that for you before I did it for you. I ain't gonna. That's number one. Number two, like, I don't think I'm close to, and I got real brothers out here that I would die for. I'm not beating their meat, okay? Like, that's just me. Two, there's no way in the world that I'm allowing even my closest of friends to take my children, doesn't matter female or male, for longer than I have allowed them to do.
Right.
And I can't get in touch with them. I can't find them. There's no way. Ain't no relationship after that, bruh.
Right.
Ain't no, to me, that's the ultimate betrayal. I have a duty to my children, my family and my children. And I entrusted in you and you broke that trust. It's a wrap. We not neighbor. If I see you, it's on site 24/7 now. I'm going to have that energy every time I see you. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't do nothing. I ain't accepting no apologies, no nothing. You don't do that. Even if it was an incident where something really did happen, it was an accident. Okay, maybe I understand. You couldn't get to the phone. Y'all went to the mountains. Okay, but here's my issue there. You said you're going horseback ride in this place, but you went to another place and that happens. Again, I entrusted you with the protection of my family. And you went off the trail and did something else. I don't trust you no more. I can't rock with you. But you're not going to tell me that you went to Mexico and tried to marry my daughter. Honestly, it would not surprise me if old buddy caught a case for like trying to injure him.
Right.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I think the whole thing was was maddening from the perspective of what I have. Now, again, we said it before, we prefaced this, we don't have children. But even for me now, if I was just watching my niece and nephew, I would feel the same. Right? Like, I would feel the same.
Yeah. And I mean, let's get into grooming a little bit, because I think that when there are adults who are grooming children, they are not just grooming the children, they are grooming the entire family. And the documentary went into this a little bit. And this is why I brought up the siblings, because she had siblings. She was not the only child in the family, and he had his own kids, but his sights were set on Jan the entire time. Yes. And what I found weird, and as kind of not the first red flag, but a red flag, is that his family went on vacation and he asked if Jan could go with the family. So to me, I'm like, why just Jan? Why just one of my kids out of all three of them to go with your family?
Right. Red flag. You know, hold the red flag up. Because you could ask like, all
why
of
are
them,
you?
We're going on a family trip. Is it cool if I, if your kids come along with my kids, we can all have a good time. Not like, can Jan specifically? That to me, that's automatic no.
Right, exactly. Automatically. Or him buying Jan things and showing Jan special attention when all the families were together. Like, and those I think are obvious.
I somewhat understand like the one person aspect. Like, I had friends growing up, and I went on family vacations with other friends. But here's the thing. It wasn't their parents who were asking my parents if I can come. It was my friend and the other family like, yo, we're going on a family trip. Can my friend Corey come with me?
Right.
I'm not friends with the rest of your family. I'm friends with Corey.
Right. My best friend, Aubrey, I always went on vacation with her and her family. She was an only child. I'm not, but obviously it was just, but she was my friend. It's not like, kind of like what you were saying. I was friends with her, and it wasn't her family wanting me to go so much as Aubrey wanting me to go, and her parents love me as their own and still to this day do. But it was never like a singling out thing.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And so that's what makes it weird for me. So if we're talking about grooming, just to switch modes, we're talking about sexual grooming. I think it's important to know. I'm gonna look up an actual like definition.
Yeah, do that.
So that I don't mess this up, and I want you to know what it actually means. What it actually eats. What the hell's going on? So this one site says that it's pretty much termed as child grooming, which is befriending and establishing an emotional connection with a child, sometimes the family, and to lower the child's inhibitions with the objective of sexual abuse. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to grooming, you know my story because I've told my story before. So I'm telling now. In previous episodes, when we talked about coercion and sexual assault, I think this is important to me because it's something that happened to me. Growing up, I knew other guys who always talked about how they had sexual encounters. And I mean other guys who were all below 18, who had sexual encounters with women who were in their 30s and 40s, who were very much so older than them. Now, as a child and as like a young male, that was like a cool thing for us, right? That was like a status booster. Or that's what the world kind of told us was a status booster. Like, oh, you're having sex with older women. Like, that's cool. In hindsight, what we didn't know is that we were being abused. Right? So that's what happened with me. Not part of my story. I guess part of my story, because everything's part of the story, is that my earliest sexual encounters was a woman who was pretty much in her 40s. Right? And so at the time, I'm in cool with my friends and everybody else because I feel like they're doing the same thing, and they're telling me they're doing the same thing, and they're showing me that they're doing the same thing. It's only when I get older and recognize what happened, I felt like I was groomed. And then I started seeing that my friends were groomed, right? Because I didn't know what grooming was. And so that's why I'm very, very, very much so an advocate and proponent of like, when we think about sexual assault, we have to get the stigma away from just like, it's men doing this to women.
Right.
But people are being abused. And I'm not trying to compare one or the other as worse, but here's what I will say. I knew a lot of boys who were having sex with older women. who were well above the age of 18, and we were well below the young of 18, the age of 18. And I don't know about their situations. I don't know if they were specifically groomed, but mine happened over a course of years before the sexual activity encountered.
Well, and I think that what's important to note is the reason why statutory rape is a thing, right?
Right.
Why consenting age is a thing. Because even if at 16, you're like, oh, yeah, dude, I'd like bag this older woman, all this stuff. Like, you do not know what you're doing. Like, it has been proven through science and all of this stuff that your brain is not fully developed to make those decisions for yourself at that young of an age.
Or at least the science that we have adopted here in Western civilization, right? Because
Right.
there's plenty of other cultures that you're able to get married younger and things of that nature.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything different against any other culture. The culture that we subscribe to, it is weird. It is disgusting.
Right.
So,
and a woman at that age should not be looking at teenage boys, especially if they have
right.
kids that age.
Right. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that there's some people who feel a certain way about like single moms who are raising sons. And again, I don't know what everybody's situation is, and this may not be real, but I have seen situations like that where the mom has entered a sexual relationship with their son. Like, it is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
It is happening. I've seen situations or heard of situations where dads entering sexual relationship with their daughters and or sons or anybody. It's disgusting. It's ridiculous. When it comes from an outside angle, it definitely is grooming, right? Especially if it was this entire time I was trying to have sex with you. I just had to wait until I lowered your inhibitions and gained your trust so much. So I understand where Jan was coming from, where Jan was like, oh, I just want to be with B. Because when you're that young, you start to think like, this is what love is. And like, maybe I actually love this person, which is why I feel so attracted to this person, because it's not like my age, like older. And so that's how you feel on the inside. So I understand the angles when it comes to Jan. Jan got finessed. Like, Janet is at no fault this entire time.
Right.
And her parents have fault when it becomes into the ability of protecting Jan
Right.
from times where they could have protected her. And I'm not saying just stuff should have happened. Exactly. They were victims too. I think there was times where they could have protected Jan even further, but they did not. They chose not to. But then I also believe that they were victims too of the manipulation and the grooming from B. He is a master manipulator, and that's exactly what he did. And for those of you out there who are still grooming children, you're despicable. It's despicable. It is very despicable.
Yeah.
I think the most famous case, obviously, people know about R. Kelly.
Yeah, I think also in this documentary, there's a point where the whole family is eating dinner. And Jan starts like swaying back and forth and like slurring her words because
clearly drugged.
B had slipped her something, but the whole family was like, what's wrong with you? Like, they didn't realize that she had been drugged. And so B was like, in front of the whole family, her family and his family, was like, oh, let me go lay her down. I'll go lay her down. It's fine.
Right. What the?
No.
I will punch you in your throat. You're not going to lay my child down. I'll go put my child to sleep.
Right. And he did. And he stayed there. And when she woke up, she saw him naked.
Like,
the family was there.
That's what I mean by opportunities to protect your child. That's what I mean by that. That was an opportunity for somebody in that family to say, first off, what kind of proposition is that, bro?
Right, I'll go lay her down. No, both of her parents are here and her siblings, so I think that we've got this under control. Y'all can leave, because obviously something's going on here. Like, she's sick. Let's just end this here. Go home. We'll see you tomorrow.
I wouldn't even like, with my nieces and nephews, if I'm at the table and they feeling whatever way, I'm looking at my brothers and sisters.
At their parents,
y'all gonna do something about this? Like, y'all gonna...
Yes.
Hey, you know what? When you leave the room, I can hold down the entertainment. You know, I'll crack a couple jokes and laugh and ha-ha and whatever. I'll keep the conversation going, but you go ahead and take care of your child. No inkling in me is like, I need to take care of this child.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Like, even if I wasn't like even if I was watching the kids, let's say I was watching the kids, fun uncle, I'm watching the kids, we're watching the kids, right? And something weird is starting to happen. The first thing I'm doing is I'm picking up the phone and calling their parents like, hey, we're eating dinner and I don't want to necessarily alarm you, but I really want to let you know, like, your child is saying this, that, and the third, and it's just really, it's not like this person. Yeah. And I think what might be best, if you're able to, is you need to come check this child out. You might want to come grab your child.
Right.
I'm not even thinking in that situation when they're not even there, that is like, I'm not going to include the parent on what I'm doing with their kid.
And also, even if they did go even if he did go lay the child down or whatever, if he's not coming back up within a decent amount of time, I'm going down there.
Yeah, right. Somebody gonna say, hey, B been in there for a minute, huh? Leave the door
or
open.
at least check on, and her bedroom was in the basement, so of course he could get her alone that way. Man. But also, not even the fact that he's been with my child for a long time, but how is my child doing? Because obviously my child was sick or something was going on with
them. Right. So I need to go check on my kid. Maybe they're asleep and I just want to see if they're good, if they're breathing or whatever, or put them over on their side, or I don't know. But I'm going to go check on my kid. You ain't going to be down there for a while. You say you're going to go put her down. You should come back up. If that was even the thing, like, cool, you go in there, you get it tucked in, you come back upstairs, bro.
Yeah.
Where you at? Why you down there? So, oh man, it's just.
But what is even more. I just keep thinking of different things because, like I said, it just kept getting worse and worse. But what's even more despicable is that he had shown this behavior. Jan was not the first child. There were several before her that he tried to do this kind of stuff to, and the parents intervened. Specifically, 2 other girls at the church that they said that he tried to do this to. But even those girls were not the first, because his brother, B's brother, then gets on the documentary and is talking about how he showed this behavior as a child and how he
always liked his little girls. That's what he said.
He always liked his little girls, and as a teenager was sexually assaulting his little sister.
His little sister, yeah. So come on, bro.
So you're telling me that his family knew of this behavior. They have proof of this behavior. And he's still going out here doing this, and
I just don't know.
It's so infuriating. This is okay. I remember now when I watched it the first time how angry I felt.
I was about to say, throwing popcorn at the screen, like. Yeah. I just was sitting there in just so much. I don't even know anger was the right emotion. I was just in so much shock of like
disbelief. Yeah.
Yeah. Of wow, this happened, and it might really be that our perspective is so much more advanced in that moment. But I guess that kind of brings me to like.
Well, just a second. I was actually listening to a Crime Junkie episode yesterday, and it was Peggy Raomi. Anyways, they were talking at the end of the episode about grooming and about the signs to see, because a lot of times you can't tell. Like, if you are not around the adult who's grooming your child, you often can't see those behaviors in a child, right? And so they were talking about ways that you can see if an adult is grooming a child is by spending extra time with just that child, which I think that we saw in this documentary. Buying special gifts for just this child, I think we saw that. Getting the child alone, we saw that. Like everything we very much saw, Yeah,
and if you're looking at it from the child standpoint, you want to look for stuff like, is there some sort of friendship there between the child and the adult? Right. Is there some sort of secrecy, right? Where you're trying to ask these questions about what they were doing and the child's like not coming forth with these questions, right?
Right.
Like stuff like that. So you have to be able to recognize some of the symptoms the signs of what's going on with my kid. A lot of that takes time and spending time with your kid and understanding. I have to look at areas of my children's life and say, if I'm talking to my child and they can't talk to me about certain situations, they're willing to talk to me about anything else, they have. But when it comes to this person, they are not willing to say much. Okay, that's a red flag. I have to be able to think that's a red flag. If, like we said earlier about the vacation, can Jan come on vacation with us? that's a red flag. You have to look at every single action. And I think that I do this. Here's one thing I enjoy about me, myself at least. It's a blessing and a curse. And you know this because I say this all the time. I look at motivation behind everything. I don't care.
You look at motive. Yeah.
Yes. I don't care what you say. You can say whatever you wanted to say. To me, the words that you say don't hurt me. Mm-hmm. Your motive behind what you said is what gets to me.
Right.
You can call me whatever you want to call me. Why did you call me? It is what is going to hurt me. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like if I trust you and I love you and you did something just to hurt me, that's what's upsetting, not what you said.
Right.
And so even when we do stuff, even when we're talking, when you ask me questions, the other day, I'm telling you a little funny story. We're driving home.
Uh-oh.
And we were driving home on the road and I'm much of a planner. I like to plan stuff out. Cadey is just live life day to day. I'll figure out what we're going to do in this moment. Like today, she wants to go to the lake. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how Cadey is. I love it. So we're in a car. And specifically on road trips, me personally, I like to we planned on doing this. Let's go do this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like boom, boom, boom. Now there is time for us to be spontaneous when we get to our destination, but I'm not much of a stop on the road guy. Like I'm like, let's fill up and just get there. And then when we're there, we can do whatever we need to do. And so we're like halfway through the trip and Cadey goes, oh yeah. Which way are we taking? Are we going like this way, through Dallas, or are we going like our normal way past our old apartment? And rather than me answering that question, because most people would answer that question, my immediate thought is, what is the motive behind that question? So I asked her, what did I ask you?
Why? What do you want to do?
I said, what's the question behind that question? What's the real question? Don't ask me that. Why is it important to you who is riding on which way that we go? That's my first thought. That's how I think about everything. Now, Cadey wanted to go get her eyebrows threaded and everything else, and they look very nice.
But they look good, don't they?
They do look good. And she wanted to get some Starbucks because the Starbucks here hasn't had the thing that she wanted. And it's whatever. It's okay. It's literally no skin off of my butt. It only took like 5 minutes, and so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
it's
on the way anyway.
Quick. But that's how I think. That is literally a little peek into my mind. She asked me that question. My first question was, why is it important for her to know which way we're going when she's doing nothing but riding? So there's another question behind that. That's me finding out what the motive is. So instead of me answering that question, because that's a waste of my time, what is the question that you just ask me? The real question you want to ask me. That's how I think about everything. Every move, everything that comes out of somebody's mouth, I'm always thinking, what's the motive behind it? Because like I said again, psychology and counseling is my background. We don't just say stuff just to say stuff. And as much as you would like to believe that, I know that your brain doesn't work that way.
Right.
So if you say something, there's motive behind what you are saying. You need to just blurt it out. And even if you think you blurted it out, you just might not know that your brain did that for a reason. So I'm always thinking motive behind stuff. So for me, I think that's what makes me somewhat of a great protector. I also think it makes me less spontaneous. So that's like the downfall, right? Of sometimes stuff just can be what it is, and you should just want to have fun. Like that's the only motive behind it. You don't have to plan so far ahead, but I am always looking into the safety aspects of stuff. When we even talk about travel, we talk about travel a lot. That's like the first thing I go to. Do we have money to do it? How safe is it?
Right. That's true.
I'm not thinking about the beach. I ain't thinking about jacuzzis in the room. I mean, I am partly thinking about jacuzzis in the room and stuff like that, but my mind definitely goes to the other aspects. Am I even welcome as a Black man in the space that we're trying to go to?
Right.
Like everybody said in our live on TikTok, they were like, you don't want to go to Boston. They told me to drive by Boston and just maybe I could drop Cadey off and just wave.
Oh my gosh.
That was funny.
All right. So if you had a child who was being groomed or that you saw those tendencies, how would you handle that? And how would you have that conversation with your child to let them know? Because I think in a child's mind, of course, I think all children, most children want attention, right? We're in a very developmental stage where we kind of thrive off of the attention of our parents or getting noticed or things like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that probably in those grooming situations, you don't feel like you're being groomed. You feel like you're being loved and valued and appreciated, and
Right.
you don't have to share, attention with your other two siblings.
Right.
You're the oldest. Jan was the oldest child, and so there were two others after her that she probably felt responsibility for, and so then she kind of assumed, and I'm just assuming all of this right now, but
Right.
how would you handle that situation? Like, how would you talk to your child and be like, I'm sorry, you can't be with this person because it's inappropriate? Like, how do you
Right.
get that through to a child that doesn't see an issue?
And
Because that's
so-
essentially what we saw when they took her, or when they let her fly to Jackson Hole, is that she was like, I want to be with him. I want to marry him. Girl, if you don't get...
Right. You don't even know. Like the old folks used to say all the time, you don't even know what love is. You wouldn't know love is it hit you in the face. Like, and then you be trying to tell them, yes, I do. I am in love. I'm in love. Yeah, okay. Okay. That is a question. So if you have an answer to that, parents or anybody, people who are about to be parents, or just go ahead and like email that into us, and we will spend time, trying to maybe do some episodes or little, YouTube things where we read that off. And
Right.
my question for TikTok is,
and think about it in this person has been manipulating. Don't just be like,
right.
Wow, it's on site, because that's
Yes.
not always how it is,
Right.
because there are people that are super close. They may be your best friend and they're grooming your child and you don't even know, or you don't realize, or you notice something's weird. So you want to cut that off before it gets there.
Exactly. And for those who are watching on TikTok, here's my question to you, and stitch this. Okay, stitch this and answer this question. How are you working already to protect your child? That's the only question. How are you working already to protect your child?
That's a good one.
And stitch it. Show the world. Some people, it could be anything. It could be you have a a Ring doorbell camera. It could be you have this and that. And I saw something the other day talking about they're trying to make baby monitors and stuff that can't be hacked. And show us. I don't think that when it comes to protection, sometimes we do get a little bit overboard. But at this moment, I'd rather you be safe than sorry.
Right.
As long as you're not harming the child in any way, do what you got to do. That's what we want to know. So those are our questions for the week. Email us, PressNextPodcast@gmail.com, if you want to answer that question, or if you would like to ask us any questions or tell us a story about something where we can read it on air. And yeah, please go watch that. Abducted in Plain Sight came out 2017. It is still on Netflix. A very wild roller coaster of a ride.
Crazy.
Katie G, do you have any church announcements?
Let's see.
What you got going on this week, or then you want to push anybody to?
No, I don't have anything except follow us on Twitter,
Press Next Pod,
Instagram,
Press Next Podcast,
TikTok,
Press Next Podcast, or you can follow us on our. We don't really post a lot on our TikTok as far as it being like the Press Next page, so you can probably focus follow us on our personal pages. Do you know your personal page name?
Yes, it is Caitlin Midd. So CAITLINMIDD.
And mine is Cori_Middleton. So CORI_MIDDLETON. I might be changing that because I got my government name out there, but y'all know who I am. It's co-host Cori. So go follow. I would probably say we're probably most active now on TikTok and IG. So if you really want to be a part of that, please do. And all we want to do is interact with our fans. So please go follow us and interact with us. And then also, as we say every time we're self-funded, we do a call to action and say, hey, if you would like to just support us at all, there's a couple things that you can do. Drop a review on Apple Podcasts.
Yes,
also,
leave us a review. We love reading them.
We love reading them. We love getting them. Drop us a review. And then also drop us some coin too. Some silent coin, some digital coin. Drop the whole stimmy, drop half a paycheck, drop $1, $5 or $20, whatever you would like to do. Just show us some love. Press Next Podcast on Venmo and on the Cash app. And then we will use that and try to make a better experience for you We really do appreciate it. We are self-funded. And without any further ado, you know what time it is.
You know what time it is. It's a Sunday, so we're chilling. I'm going to be watching TV. Maybe I'll go to the lake, but I'll be watching TV. So when Netflix asks, are you still watching? I'm going to press next.
There we go. Always press next. We love y'all. We'll see y'all next week.